Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney, and today not only am I showing off the matching pajama sets that I made for my sister and I on the trip that we took to Florida, but I'm also talking you through how to use knit fabric with a pattern that is intended for wovens. So the tips and tricks that I use to create these, and if that is something that has ever interested you, hopefully these tips and tricks will help you, even if you're not doing pajamas, if you're doing another type of project. Okay, let's talk about these super cute patterns. I'm going to talk a little bit about the pattern. I did alter the pattern a little bit to make it short-sleeved and shorts, and I'm going to talk you through what I did there, the fabric, and then we're going to talk about some tips and tricks for using knit fabric in a woven pattern. This is the seam work leaf pajamas. This pattern is a unisex. It is a unisex pattern. Technically is a long sleeved with pants, elastic waist pants. I shortened both the sleeve and the pants, obviously, into shorts. And then I had to make my cuffs had to be different because obviously a shorter sleeve, it's much wider, so than it would be at the wrist for the cuff. So the cuff had to be a little bit longer there. And then for the shorts, it didn't change a lot, but it did get just a little bit longer. Because the leg is pretty, straight down from where I went, but it was just a little bit wider where I was. So I did make the cuffs just a little bit wider and actually had to make them a little narrower just because of fabric, how much fabric I had, but I think it worked out really, really well. So that is the pattern. Now, seam work patterns, you can buy patterns just, if any of the patterns there at the catalog. Or they have a couple of membership options that not only do patterns come with the membership option, but there's like their Design Your Wardrobe course that's included. There's a whole bunch of like classes and stuff that are also included with your membership if you are, one of their members, including the patterns. If you have their unlimited membership, which is what I have and I've had since the beginning. In fact, I get it for a really low price because I was grandfathered in. It was the original price when they very first started the club membership. But I have a code for 50% off that unlimited. When you have the unlimited, you have access to all the patterns. So it is absolutely worth it. And again, I have 50%. You do have to pay for that as a year. You can't go month to month on that one, but I do have 50% off that if you're interested. And I will leave that link down below in the description box. Okay, this is a pattern meant for wovens, like I said. I used a cotton spandex jersey in this phenomenal stuff. The colors on it are just so good. So it's got little I guess they're maybe leopards that are on here with some flowers and stuff. But I love the red background with the hot pink flowers. I just love that. And then you've got the aquas that come in here. And then obviously the orange on the cat. I just thought this fabric was so good. I was down at the University of Sewing back in December for a shopping event, and I posted live on YouTube just, hey, here's some fabrics. This is what I'm buying, that kind of stuff. And luckily, actually, one of the fabrics I showed that I was going to buy sold out before I got any, and I didn't get any of it. I should have had my stuff cut before I showed them off. But this one, I did get I bought 5 yards of it, because I was going to make myself a pair of long sleeve, long pants, and then decided to pivot because I thought I had enough fabric. And I did, but only just, to make short sleeved and shorts for my sister and I. But it was gone. There was nothing for me to go back and buy any extra. So after I got my 5 yards, it got sold out also on that day. That being said, Margaret at University of Sewing has got some more in. And I do have a code to get you 15% off your online order at University of Sewing. And this fabric is back in stock. In addition, the fabric, I used some scraps from projects you've already seen. So this is a viscose spandex. This blue is a viscose spandex, like this peacock, that I made a t-shirt out of. She has that fabric in stock. And this kind of orange, the macaroni and cheese color, is a cotton spandex jersey that she also has. I made a t-shirt out of it. She also has that in stock. As well as, when I made those 2 t-shirts, I also made a tiered dress. And she's got that fabric in stock as well. It was like a stripe. and all of them go together. It's all the same color family, all 4 of these fabrics. So if you're interested, the Stoff Knit is phenomenal. And they're all cotton spandex except for this peacock. This peacock is their viscose spandex, and it's lovely. I've got a t-shirt that's been worn and washed multiple times, and it is a really good one. Not all viscose spandexes are created equal, and but this is a really good one. So anyway, all of that is down at Margaret's shop. Okay, let's talk about using knits for woven. I was trying to decide which direction do I want to go. I'll talk about the pattern alterations I made at the end. Okay, to get the shorts and the short sleeve. So you can use knit fabrics with a pattern meant for wovens. However, it does not go the other way. You can, I never say never because there's always a just depends pretty much in everything with sewing. But for a general rule of thumb, you do not want to use woven fabric for a knit pattern because there's a thing called ease that is in our patterns. Wearing ease is the difference between our body measurement and the measurement of the clothing. So the size chart measurement that it's been drafted for and the finished measurement of the garment in order to allow you to move. So there's always positive wearing ease and woven garments because you've got to be able to move because the fabric doesn't give. Design ease is the extra above and beyond that depending on the style of the garment. So for instance, a fitted sheath dress is going to have just wearing ease, like probably 0 design ease, just wearing ease. But a really loose, like bohemian styled peasant top or something probably has a ton of design ease in it because it's meant to be big and loose and flowy and boxy. A caftan, ton of design ease. So that reason is why we can use knit fabrics for a woven pattern because having ease, it's fine if we don't or have some in knits. But typically with knit patterns, not always, but a lot of times you are dealing with negative ease, meaning they've made things smaller, anticipating that the fabric, the percentage of stretch that's in the fabric that's recommended, gives you the extra room so that you can move comfortably. So like a fitted t-shirt, for instance, will have negative ease because it's meant to fit the body very tightly, but you can still move because of the give in the fabric. So hopefully that makes sense. So yes, you can use knit fabric on woven patterns, but not the other way around, typically. I will not say never. There's always exceptions to every rule. So that being said, there may be some things you want to consider though before using a knit fabric for a woven pattern. One being, because knit fabric has give and a lot of times has spandex in the fabric, you may want to size down because you don't need as much roominess, boxiness that the woven fabric needs because you just don't need that much wearing ease or design ease. And a lot of times you could just make your regular size, but sometimes it ends up looking just a little bit too big because knit fabric just has more drape than its woven counterparts. So, a jersey, a viscose spandex jersey has more drape than a rayon challis, and a cotton spandex jersey has more drape to it than a cotton lawn, for instance. So, it can sometimes just look a little bit big, and maybe that's not the look you're going for. But you can absolutely size down. Usually it's recommended to size down 1 if you're using a knit fabric for a woven pattern, and that is what I did here. I typically make a size 12 in seam work patterns. I made a 10 in this one, and I made them for both my sister and I. We're not built the same. I am very busty, but narrower in my upper back and shoulders and that sort of thing. My sister is not busty, but she's broader in the shoulders and back. We both have very short torsos, and then my sister has got arms and legs that go for days. My sister's 5'7". I'm 5'2". So she's got a short torso, but really, really long, thin, beautiful, long arms and legs. So, but a lot of times we wear similar sizes. So and because this is knit fabric, I went ahead and made us the same size because I don't have her here. In fact, this is a birthday gift for her. So she's already seen it. By the time this video is coming out, she will have already opened it. But I did size down 1 to the size 10 when making these. Okay. Okay, let's talk about sewing it. Yeah. sorry, I'm looking down at my list of things so I don't get sidetracked and I make sure I say everything. I'll talk about the alterations I made to the pattern after we're done talking about using knit fabrics. So because this fabric was meant for a woven, I was able to use a straight stitch on my sewing machine for all the seams. Well, I didn't on all the seams. I did use my serger just for quickness and ease on like the shoulder seams and when I was attaching the sleeve. But because I put piping in here, I did use my sewing machine to attach the piping, and I used my sewing machine to sew like the facings and stuff together, to sew the collar on, all that. I used my sewing machine and I used a straight stitch because none of this needs to stretch in order to be able to move in it because it was meant for woven fabric. So I don't have to worry about popping any stitches. So my hem, I even sewed that just with a straight stitch on my machine. I serged the edge of the garment and then folded it up and then just top stitched it with a straight stitch. So it kind of looks cover stitched just because I've got that serged edge, the looped edge on the back side, but it's all been straight stitched with my sewing machine. I used a ballpoint needle. I should be more specific. I used a stretch, Schmetz stretch needle, a size 11 to do all of the sewing on this. I prefer, anytime your fabric has got some spandex in it, I always use a stretch needle. Now a stretch needle is a ballpoint needle, but it's got some other engineering that's been done to it to help it get past those lycra or elastane threads. A lot of times if you're just using a regular old ballpoint needle, you're going to get skip stitches, some puckering and that sort of thing when you're using fabric that's got spandex in it. So my go-to are the Schmetz stretch needles, not the ballpoint. And on that note, I do have a free ebook on the channel, all with a whole bunch of knit tips and tricks. So if you're new to sewing with knits and are curious about learning more about that, it's free. And it is right on the home page of my website, Tomcat Stitchery. Gosh, dang it, Gidget. Oh my gosh, could you be more annoying? Come on. It's right on the home screen of my website, tomcatstitchery.com. You just have to scroll down like one page, and it's right there. You can fill it out, and that ebook will be sent for free right to your inbox. I also have a digital class, Knit Sewing Essentials. I think the name of it, Knit Sewing Essentials, which is me holding your hand on. So if you've never sewn with knits before, I show you how to sew with knits on a sewing machine, on a serger. We're making t-shirts, and so I show different neckline options, all the tips and tricks, and then how to take what you learned into other garments as well. So anyway, both those available. I'll link them down below. Anyway, lots of tips and tricks. I did use regular old interfacing, a sheer interfacing for my facings and my collar, because though, again, they don't need to stretch. And for my piping, I used scrap pieces of knit that I had that, again, coordinated with this beautifully. Now, the inside of my piping is cotton cord that doesn't stretch at all. But that's fine because I don't need this to stretch, remember? Because it was meant for a woven fabric. So I made my piping just like I have a video on the channel on how I make and install piping. I did the same thing, except I was using knit fabric instead of woven fabric. So with woven fabric, you cut your pieces on the bias, and then you wrap and sew your piping down and then attach your piping. Because it's knit fabric and it already has stretch, I just cut it on the cross grain. So cutting it on the cross grain, you've got enough stretch that a bias strip would give you in a woven, and that worked perfectly, and I got some really nice looking bias trim. But I did the blue, the peacock blue on my sister, and the orange on me, just to make them a little bit different. She's a summer color palette, so these colors are a little bright for her, but I think it's a lot of fun. But the peacock blue is a little bit more in her color palette, and then the orange is more in mine. So I thought that that was a lot of fun. Okay, ballpoint needle, lightweight interfacing. Okay, I also embroidered the pockets, folks, because I can, and I don't use my embroidery module nearly enough. So my sewing machine, I did all of this on my Bernina 790 Pro, and that is a machine that is on loan to me from the University of Sewing. I don't technically own it, it's just on loan to me. Love it. Did all of this on the Bernina. It's fantastic. And I also have an embroidery module that's been loaned to me. So I just don't use it enough, and I need to be using it more. I guess it's kind of intimidating a little bit, even though I had Alice that came down and showed me how to use it. It's one of those things I think you need to use a lot. and get more comfortable. But I put our initials onto our shirts. So my sister's got them on hers. I've got them on mine. I decided to go with white thread just so you could actually see it. I played around with doing like, like a peacock blue on her and like an orange on me, but it was going to get lost in the print of the fabric. So I went with the white. I think that works really, really well. And because I interfaced it, monogrammed it with the embroidery machine, not a monogram, these are initials, not a monogram, but I interfaced the whole pocket piece so that it took all the stretch out of the fabric for the pocket piece, and then it just stands nicely against the body. And I use the same interfacing that I put into the lapels and the collar. I did make one boo-boo when sewing this. The seamwork has 5/8 of an inch seam allowances on their patterns, and I was just charging ahead, made all of my bias or my piping with 5/8 of an inch seam allowances, so I could easily, just butt my raw edges together and sew around. And it wasn't until I was constructing the collar that I realized that the collar and where it attaches to the neckline and the whole front of the lapel, you use 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. But I had already sewn all the piping on with 5/8, so 5/8 it was. So my collar is a little bit, a 1/4 of an inch shorter than it should be, but that's okay. I think it looks just fine. We're just gonna go with it. So those are my tips and tricks for using knit fabrics on woven, with a woven pattern. Now, I did, like I said, made a couple of adjustments. Number one, I shortened the sleeves, actually the sleeves and the legs. What I did is I made a line, the grain line, made a line parallel with the grain line down the whole leg so that I could easily see that. And then I made a line perpendicular to that where I wanted to cut off my sleeve and or my leg. So I just wanted to make sure that that hemline was perfectly 90-degree angle to the grain in order to make sure everything lined up right. So I measured down from the inseam on the pants 4 inches, and I did the math to take into consideration the 5/8 inch at the top of the crotch and the 5/8 inch for the piping to get me, oh gosh, what did I end up with? Around about maybe a 6-inch inseam. I can't remember now what my finished inseam was. But on these, I measured down 4 inches and then put my piping in. And then I made my cuff a finished 2.5 inches wide on both the, is that right? That's not, sorry, not 2.5, 1.5. I'm like, that is not 2.5 inches. And I'm doing the math really quick in my head. For a finished 1.5 inch cuff. Now, I was going to leave the cuffs the same width as was drafted, but I ran out of fabric. So I had to make my, I cut these the cuffs very last, and I had to make my cuffs much narrower. But because it's a short sleeve and a shorts, I feel like this is fine. So my finished cuffs are 1.5 inches and then, wide. And then I made them the same amount for the length so they would sew perfectly into the circumference of the sleeve and the leg of the shorts, if that makes sense. So it's a 1-to-1 for that. I didn't make them any shorter or anything. A lot of times with bands and knits, you're making things shorter so it hugs the body, but I didn't want any of that for this. So that is how I made them shorter, and I used my projector and literally just measured down and marked my fabric and then just cut along a line that I made from the projector. So, and I shortened the rise on both my pair and my sister's 1/2 inch in the front and 1/2 inch in the back. And I have to do that with seamwork patterns just because they draft for a really long rise. And while my sister has super long legs, our torsos again are very similar. So I went ahead and lowered her rise as well, just so, it's hitting right at our natural waist. For the shorts, really quickly, the pattern instructions are having you sew like an actual fly, and then it has you put instead of a zipper, a button here, making them functioning for going to the restroom if you have certain body parts, because again, it's a unisex pattern. I made mine a faux fly, so it doesn't even work at all. And all I did was, you know, the grown on fly kind of comes down and then it comes in like this. I just sewed all the way around that and all the way down, and then folded it over to one side and then just basted it up here at the top. So it looks like a functioning fly, but it's not. There's also some really deep pockets in these shorts, which is lovely because, you know, throw your phone or whatever in there in the morning. They're just delightful. And I think these are really good pajamas when you are sharing a space with someone else. So if you're staying at someone's house, we shared a condo with my sister and brother-in-law. So, you know, you're still decent. You still look cute. And my sister and I matched, which I just think is a lot of fun. But anyway, that's it. That is how I took the leaf pajamas and made this adorable matching set for my sister and I, and we are both in love with our sets. So there you have it. That is it for today. I hope you're getting some sewing in. I hope you are having as much fun sewing as I am right now. I'm really in my groove. Have a good day. Yeah, what's on your cutting table? What are you working on right now? Leave it in the comments below, and I will see you guys again next time.